There is never a quiet night in the association. Aaron Wiggins scores 41 points for the Sacramento Kings. Chet Holmgren had an early morning dunk. And Luka Doncic plays for the Lakers. All this and more on Locked on Thunder.
You are Locked on. You are Locked on Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked on Thunder podcast on the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into Aaron Wiggins dropping 41 points, Chet Holmgren slamming home a dunk, and briefly mentioning Luka Doncic plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. What a night. What a night in the association. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Go check out Game Time today by downloading the Game Time app, creating your account, and using code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. It's such a crazy day in the NBA that this is your first of two weekend podcasts. So this show will operate for your bookkeeping purposes as the bonus episode for the Kings recap. The show that we post Sunday morning afternoon, which we're going to record right after this, will be the Monday show. But because this topic is so large in nature, which is going to be more on Luka and more on the trade deadline, we might post it a bit early and not make you wait until midnight on Sunday night. But got to recap this game against the Kings. Got to talk Chet. Got to talk Luka. Let's talk something at least now. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, deserve a lot of credit for this win. And yes, typically you don't get a lot of credit for curb stomping a team into submission. But this was a fully healthy Sacramento Kings team. For as mediocre as they are, the spread was only 7.5 points from our good friends over at FanDuel once Jalen Williams was downgraded to out with an injury. So you came into the night against a fully healthy Kings, down J-Dub, down A.J. Mitchell, down Alex Caruso, down Chet Holmgren. And during this game, less than 10 minutes into action, you lost Cason Wallace as well. And at the time that you lost Cason Wallace, this was still a ball game, folks. Like, this was still within striking distance. And it's another example of the Thunder being resilient, sticking to their strategy, sticking to their system, and having that next man up mentality. And nobody embodies that next man up mentality, and as Mark called it, a team first guy, an all team guy, like Aaron Wiggins, who went for a career night in more ways than one. 41 points, clearly a career high. He had not scored 30 points in college or NBA. The only time he scored 30 points was at Westlake in high school, like at Westland. I mean, this is storybook stuff. And it's a shame that, like, all of you are just hitting the 30-second skip button to get to the Luka segment, and I don't blame you for that. But it's a shame that this night will get bypassed. Like for whatever NBA media, and today there's going to be a lot that comes out on Sundays. It's all about Luka. It's all about LeBron and Luka pairing. It's all about AD. It's all about this trade. But, Wiggins is living out this Disney World storybook scripted dream. Like, if you sat down to watch a Disney movie, right? There's that one Disney movie, The Luck of the Irish. Like if you sat down to watch that, your sports obsessed friend would be in your ear constantly saying things like, yeah, right, sure, that would never happen, right? Saying those taglines over and over and over again. He's an under-recruited guy at a high school. He goes to Maryland, and not exactly a basketball factory. He's the 55th overall pick in the NBA draft. He starts on a two-way contract, and he works his way up from a two-way contract to a standard contract, and not a charitable one. Not a, hey, let's treat this guy like a walk-on. These games still don't mean much to us. Let's convert him, give him a feel-good story before we make some big offseason moves. A legitimate contract. Then he gets signed to another one, playing his way out of feel-good second-round story to valuable part of a team who's the number one seed in the West for the second straight season. That in and of itself is crazy. Then you have a game like this where you score 41 points in an NBA game and 35 of them were legit. Like, yes, I'll grant you he chased the 35 to 40 point total, but he got 30 points within the flow of this game, within the flow of this offense, without hunting his shot. And again, he did that at the end of this game. But even while shot chucking at the end, he scored 41 points on 53% shooting from the floor and 49% from three, really 43% from three, 49.9. Even at LPS, they teach us that you can round that up to 43. Shout out to Eisenhower High School. Look, Wiggins, again, if I told you all this stuff was going to happen, you would not believe me the day he was drafted. And he's now the 7th member of the Thunder to own a 40-point game in team history. And you know who a second one of those names is? Lou Dort, who's an undrafted guy who also started on a two-way contract, who then went and scored 40 in an NBA game. And so I get it that sometimes, like, you can catch on to Thunder content in this show and you hear these phrases, right? Like the developmental plan for the Thunder, how great they are culturally, how great they are, at progressing players. This is why you take a shot on this developmental play, on this project player, because you have such a good developmental staff. And you can hear those things, and sometimes they can go in one ear out the other. But these are like touchstone moments of what that means. And I asked Lou Dort about this after the game, and Lou Dort gave a good answer of every player who comes into this organization has a plan. And when he says that, you can kind of cast that off as coach speak. But if you really dive into what that means, it's living, breathing proof that this team treats guy 1 and 18 the exact same on their roster. And it give them the same amount of focus in their developmental strategies at practices, in their developmental plans for the offseason, on down the line. And so because they have these plans, they're able to get these results. How many times are you watching other NBA teams where they just haphazardly throw out young guys and they let their young guys go do whatever they want, and in garbage time, they're just chucking shots and nobody's doing anything. They're just running around with chickens like their heads cut off, right? And then you watch the Thunder and how intentional every little thing is. I'll give you an example of this to prelude the Chet conversation. The Thunder have Adam Flagler and Alex Dukas running through drills at a speed in which, of course, it's not like game speed per se, but at a speed of which you would not do 5 hours before tip-off. But because they take everything seriously, they're able to try to squeeze every ounce of gym time into something meaningful and impactful, that they're having their two-way guys who don't get much run on the court get their 7-foot prized possession, Chet Holmgren, ready to return to the court. And you hear stories about that all the way back to the Breakfast Club, whenever this team was on Zoom and this team was losing a billion games, only winning 27 games a year. Like, so the fact of the matter is, this organization does deserve credit for developing these guys. They do deserve credit for giving these guys plans, and these players deserve credit for going and executing those plans. Because you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink, but it's been a combination of the two. You've given them the path; they've had to walk that path. To Lou's credit, to Wiggins' credit, they've walked it seamlessly. And that's why you have such confidence in a guy like AJ Mitchell, who's shown you these flashes of a really talented NBA player. And he's also in a culture that breeds production from stones that in other franchises go unturned. And Wiggins' night tonight was awesome. And his whole family was there, and he was just so excited about it post-game. Why wouldn't you be? But Wiggins, like, I don't like to pretend like we know these guys personally, but every indication that we get, every time that we get a small window into these guys' lives, talking to them, he's one of the best. He's one of the best at just being a normal human, right? Like, there's an element of like being a robot when you're talking to the media. There's an element, honestly, of being like, why am I doing this? I'm so much better than you guys. And like, Wiggins has none of that. Like, Wiggins has none of that. He's just a normal dude. And what a great game from him. A career high 41 points, a career high 14 rebounds. And 3 assists from him as well. Wiggins deserved that success. It was great to see him have it. And he played a big part in this Thunder win, clearly, as a plus 31 in the game. But the Thunder did their job through adversity, beating the Sacramento Kings. More on this Kings game coming up, but also talking Chet, talking Luka. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Game Time. Go check out Game Time today because Game Time is great. Game Time is awesome, and I love going to live events. You could have been live in the Paycom Center today watching Wiggins drop 41 points had you gone to Game Time. So if you need a ticket to the next big event, whether it's a concert, comedy show, or sporting event, go right now and find the right ticket at the right price so you can eliminate the headaches of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. It's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets and finding the right listing for you. So with this curated list of deals, it makes it easy to pick the great ticket at the great price. No more sifting through seating maps. And you can also get in on super deals for a prime seat. You will not believe the value and the steal that those super deals are. The seating map is a game changer because before you even hit buy, you can see exactly where your seat is in the venue, making sure you have the right viewpoint. I also love the toggle in all-in pricing feature where you can see everything you're going to pay right up front. And if you find a better deal somewhere else, guess what? They're so confident that you won't. They'll refund you 110% of the difference of that deal. So get your tickets right now, guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDINNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Create your account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Well, what a game this was against the Kings. There's a little bit more on this game that we're going to get to the more juicy things than a blowout win over the Kings. Isaiah Hartenstein was awesome tonight. Isaiah Hartenstein had 16 points, 15 boards, 6 assists. They really got him going early, and you could see how that bended the defense to let them, exploit them from beyond the arc. And they were shooting lights out all night, and even through garbage time, they shot 41% from three as a team this season. This game, the Thunder made 53% of their shots this game. But Hartenstein getting going in the paint early really forced the Kings to gear up and load up even more in the paint, which allowed the kickouts from both Hartenstein and Shea, which set up very easy looks. Shea had 29 points on 50% shooting, and it's kind of just a ho-hum game from him. Only 30 minutes played, did not play in the fourth quarter, so add that to the total of fourth quarters that SGA has sat out. Kenrich Williams, man, what a game from him. 18 points, 11 rebound, double-double. He was electrifying defensively. He knocked down triples in timely fashion, and he cleaned up the glass. And I asked Kenrich about his bold prediction at training camp, J-Dub's rookie year. He predicted that J-Dub would be an all-star. And so I asked him to reflect on that moment and kind of what he's seen from J-Dub. And he says since the first time he saw J-Dub play pickup, the IQ jumped off the page. And like that was something that stood out to him that made you know he was for real. On top of his God-given ability, Kenrich said, the IQ was like the real difference maker. This is not just a really good athlete. This is not just a really good hooper who's going out here and getting buckets and pickup. This is a guy who understands the game on both ends. And you've seen that from J-Dub throughout his whole tenure in the NBA, where he's now turned himself into an elite defender. He's a bona fide elite defender. He should be on all defensive teams. And then offensively, we've seen all of these flashes throughout his career that leads you to believe he's going to be an excellent bucket getter. He's scoring 20 points a game, and he's helping lead this team. So shout out to Kenny Hustle. Shout out to J-Dub for getting on the board as an all-star. Lou Dort, 6 for 10 from three. 20 points from him, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. He had this great sequence where he swipes the ball in the paint of Sacramento, races down the floor, knocks down the shot. I mean, like just goes coast to coast with it, and it was great for Lou Dort. It's crazy to think the progression, speaking of progressions, that Lou Dort has gone through as an offensive player. And it's been a combination of, one, he's just simply gotten better. Like he's just simply gotten better as a shooter. And he's gotten better, like more talented, while also getting more selective and getting better at reading the floor, not taking bad shots, which has helped his efficiency. So I think that his efficiency is a two-pronged thing here of why it's getting better every single season of his NBA career. Last year, he was shooting 39% from three. This year, he's up to 40% from three. It's because he's cutting out bad shots. He admitted as such. Like that's, so that's not me degrading Lou Dort. But one thing I do find curious about this shooting, 40% from three while having mallet finger on your shooting hand is nothing to sneeze at. 40% from three while fully healthy is nothing to sneeze at. So I wonder if like there's an element of comfortability that comes whenever he's healthy. That is there another gear you can get to in terms of efficiency by being more selective and having more talent as a shooter to where could you get this number to 41, 42% from three, which could make all the difference in the world in tight games and the high stakes games that you are going to play this summer. But I think that that's all we have for the Kings game. The Thunder led by 37 points, 8 lead changes, 3 ties. The Thunder dominate the glass, 70 rebounds in this game against Sabonis, and the Kings only had 37 rebounds to their name. The Thunder had 11 turnovers to the Kings 7. The Thunder shot 53% from the floor, 41% from three, and they needed to improve their free throw percentage, 68% from the charity stripe. The Kings shot 40, 25, 73, and that's a testament to the Thunder settling into this game. Early on, you really felt the miss of J-Dub because guys were flying at Sabonis as I asked Mark pregame, what do you need to do to take away Sabonis? And he said, you've got to get into his body early. So you could tell that they were jumping into Sabonis, making sure they had him taken care of. And off of that came back cuts in the first quarter, which is what helped the Kings get a lead, what helped the Kings stay in this game. The Thunder adjusted, they settled in, and of course made life really hard on Sacramento. With those 70 rebounds came 74 points in the paint against the 50 from the Kings. The Thunder had 24 second chance points with the 11 from Sacramento. And the Thunder actually lost fast break points 20-14, which makes sense given the turnover disparity. But the Thunder win 144-110 over the Sacramento Kings. Before this game at shoot around on Saturday, we were let in to see shoot around, and it was just me and Clemente Almanza and Nick Gallo and Paris Lawson there. And so during shoot around, while we were waiting for the player to come talk to the media, Chet Holmgren was there. And at first, he was just kind of tossing the ball in the air. And typically in the media viewing portion of things, that's kind of been what Chet does, is just kind of toss the ball in the air, and then he kind of leaves. But this time, he went through drills. He did some 1-on-0 work. He also did some pick and roll drills with Dukas and Flagler, like we mentioned. And then he also did some offense-defense drills. And I have all this clipped on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles that you can go check out. And it was really impressive to see him move that way. He got a block on Flagler in recovery at the rim, which was nice. He had the dunk, which everybody is talking about. We wrote about that for Thunder on SI, where you can also find these clips embedded in that story on Thunder on SI of Chet dunking and Chet doing these drills. So he looked really good, and he was moving really good. And again, he's been working behind the scenes this whole time. What people might not understand is like, if you see a Thunder practice video and you don't see Chet there, that doesn't mean Chet didn't do any work. It just means that during our limited time on the practice court, he was not there or he was not doing anything. He's obviously been putting in the work and the rehab. It's why he's on track to return. It's why he's making such great progress. This was just the first moment that we were there to see it and thus record it of what he was doing, and he looked really awesome in this stretch. And this is just purely speculation. As we just went through in the first segment, I'm clearly a storybook guy. What a storybook it would be if he returns at the end of February in Minnesota for the front end of that back-to-back, and he's playing in his hometown. He's playing his hometown team. He's playing this massive game of his return against Minnesota. That's, again, speculation. That's nothing at all serious or confirmed at all, but it'd be a really big storybook. I think that he's getting close. I don't know how close, but it's fun to see him continue to make strides in this rehab process. But coming up, Luka Doncic wears purple and gold. What does this mean for the Thunder? What does this mean for the West coming up? But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at PrizePicks, go check out PrizePicks today because basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions in award winnings. PrizePicks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money in cash. So, for example, Luka Doncic's Laker debut, more or less on 30.5 points. You can make that projection, couple it with something else, and boom, you can hit that entry. If it's right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money by going to PrizePicks today, downloading the app, using code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly. after you play your first $5 lineup. So a $5 lineup, win or lose, gets you $50 instantly when you use our code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly when you make your first $5 lineup at PrizePicks. Run your game. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. What an insane night in the NBA. Wiggins scored 41 points. Luka Doncic now plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. Can we just talk first about how crazy this is? This whole fiasco this is? Because me and Michael Martin are going to hop on and talk about what this means in depth for the Thunder and for the West. But we're going to do that on this show too. But just first to set the table, this came out of absolute nowhere. Nowhere. Adam Francisco showed me the tweet when I was walking out to the parking lot after recording Dream Team, and he showed it to me. I was like, dude, you got fooled. You got fooled. He said, no, look. And he clicked on the profile, and it was the real profile. And I said, okay, well, Shams got hacked. And I'm just sitting here coping like, okay, this can't be real. This can't be real. Shams got hacked. And then Tim McMahon retweets it. And I was like, okay, there's no way that both of them got hacked. There's no way. There's no way. So it was real. And Mark Stein, who's the most plugged in Dallas, confirmed that it was real. But Mark Stein also said that the Mavericks are indeed, without warning, trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers in a 3-team deal. And then he followed this up with, Doncic has been informed of the trade, I'm told, which was agreed upon late Saturday, and according to Stein, of course, is a stunning trade in the most stunning trade in NBA history. And that Luka Doncic did not request this trade. Luka Doncic did not request the trade. The Mavericks did this on their own accord, getting back Anthony Davis, one future pick, and that's it. Anthony Davis, one future pick, and that's it for Luka Doncic. Nico Harrison has been praised since he got the job in Dallas. And to this point, rightfully so. But this is a trade you cannot come back from. Luka Doncic, love him or hate him, I do not care. Luka Doncic, who, as Mark Stein reports, up until tonight, projected to be wanting to sign a 5-year contract extension worth a record-breaking $3-5 million with Dallas. You don't punt on that. I don't care about the conditioning. I don't care about the injuries. Guess what, folks? Like, this is what the Mavericks are going to sell you. They're going to say this bill of goods about injuries. You know who gets more hurt than Luka? Anthony Davis. You know who's older than Luka? Anthony Davis. You know who's never won anything? Anthony Davis. Meanwhile, Luka Doncic has drugged that franchise to 2 Western Conference Finals, including an NBA Finals berth a year ago. And because he got hurt this year, even though he wants to stay, forget about it. We'll just hand the Lakers a face of the franchise, a face of the league for the next decade. Because why is Luka ever going to leave LA? He didn't want to leave Dallas. He's not going to want to leave LA. And I just think that it's a trade that in the immediate future, I'm still flummoxed by what this means. Because the Mavericks' strength has been their big men of when they're healthy, Gafford and Lively. Now they have Gafford, Lively, and Davis. So you could do PJ at the 3, and then Davis at the 4, which he wants to do and not play center, and then Lively, and then have Gafford off the bench. And you're building this around Kyrie, who's no spring chicken himself. I don't know what this does for Dallas. And then for the immediate future of the Lakers, yes, LeBron and Luka is insane. And nobody should want to sign up for a 7-game series against LA. But they still have a roster problem, right? Players 4 through 18. And in the playoffs, 15, of course, because the 2A guys can't play. But for the Lakers, I of course lean the Lakers won the trade because it's not just about this year. Who cares? I don't care if the Mavericks somehow go to the finals this year. They're not going to win this trade because you've given the Lakers a franchise, a star of the city, a economy. Luka Doncic himself is an economy. For free. For an injury-prone power forward who's aging. And for a pick that if Luka stays in LA, which if we didn't think he was going to leave Dallas, why would we think he was going to leave LA? That pick's going to be at best a middling pick if Luka gets hurt that year, knock on wood. This is an insane trade. It's an absurd trade. And it's a trade that in some ways could revolutionize the league. In some ways it could revitalize the league. Because one, nobody expected this. It's all anybody's going to talk about today. And Gilmore agrees it's an awful trade. And it does hand gift the Lakers a future star for a decade. And the Lakers are the most powerful brand in the sport. I just don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about what this trade does. But I will say, it makes the trade deadline so much more interesting. Does this become the first domino to fall? Because I'll be honest, hand up, the easy cop-out in trade talks has been, it's just too tough to pull this stuff off. It's too tough to pull it off mid-season. We've now seen Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic traded mid-season. We're probably going to see Fox and Butler traded mid-season. So that cop-out goes out the window. And so now does this become the first domino of like, well, if Luka can ask out midseason, and he didn't ask out, by the way, but if you can find a way to trade Luka midseason, you can find a way to trade me midseason and make the money work. Because typically it's easier to make the money work in the summertime. Does this become an arms race? Do teams now fear a LeBron and Luka pairing to where they're now just racing to improve their roster any which way? Or are they kind of left like the rest of the NBA world throwing their hands up like, okay, it's a move. It's a shocking move. It's a move that has star power, but a move that doesn't necessarily move the needle. The only thing it doesn't move is the needle. It moves everything else but the needle. I don't know, which is why we have another podcast probably out while you're listening to this about this very trade. But thank you so much for listening to today's show. And until next time, which is going to be in a minute from now, be good and be good to one another.